Walsanji, there is one aspect about the way we preach and practice religion which bothers me most.
Yes.
And that is, we don't allow any reasoning,
Yes.
any rational perspective.
Yes.
We say this is something given, you have to follow,
Yes.
obey,
Yes.
and that becoming so restrictive.
Yes.
So I find that we are not able to evolve ourselves as human beings.
Yes.
This life is meant to evolve.
Yes.
Spiritual evolution has to take place.
Yes.
But unfortunately, these structured religions, which they are a structured, ritualistic and dogmatic approach, they don't allow us to reason, to ask questions, and we seldom indulge in any type of self-criticism.
Yes.
We take it for granted that what we are saying is above criticism,
Yes.
beyond criticism.
Yes.
Now, this, I think, is very against the very concept of spirituality.
Yes.
It is very much against the whole philosophy of evolution. We can never evolve. We get stuck up.
Yes.
So what is your take on this?
Yeah, thank you. I think you have raised a very important, it's a very crucial question, Swamiji. I'm a priest, so I have been very aware of this. There was a time in my life when if anyone questioned my faith, I would have become very upset. And so upset that I would not be able to give a rational, reasoned response to that person's attitude or question or whatever. And I have examined myself on this. Why does it happen like this? And this is what I have discovered for myself. I realized that my discomfort, which expresses itself as religious zeal, intolerant religious zeal, is nothing but a product of my ignorance.
Yeah.
Because I actually do not know my faith. I did not know my faith. So if someone asks me to explain this particular doctrine or dogma, I was in no position to do that. So all I could do was to say, well, this is the ultimate truth. I believe that it is so, therefore you also must accept. Not realizing that such an attitude is complete nonsense. It cannot, it's an insult to everybody else.
But this is the attitude of most theologians.
Everyone. But
All
then,
religions. Yeah.
then I looked into the life of Jesus Christ and I found that he was always questioning. He was questioning the religious establishment, he was questioning the religious leaders, he was questioning the religious practices, he was questioning everything.
And he paid the price for that.
He paid the price for
Yes.
it. Now, what I understand from these two things put together is this. All religions, not in their scriptures, but in their practices, propose for themselves wrong goals, wrong purposes. For example, Christians believe that the purpose of religion is to send them off to heaven. Maybe Hindus believe that it is to enable people to attain moksha. But what about life before death? What about life before moksha?
Yes.
As though this life, which is the only certain thing in your case or my case,
Yes.
does not matter. Everything else matters. Now, the moment you shift the focus from life beyond death
After
or
life.
existence after death to life before death, religion has to change. Our idea and practice of religion will have to change. So at that time, when it comes to the whole adventure of living, dogmas don't help. Rituals and practices don't help. What helps is a daily, humble, open-minded relationship with God and relationship with our fellow human beings based on the four universal values of love, justice, truth and compassion. Nothing else helps.
And with a dose or with an element of self-criticism also.
No, so I'm going to that.
Yeah.
So self-criticism will come and must come in respect of where one stands
Yes.
in relation to the practice of these four universal values.
Yes.
I am fairly convinced through my own experience, I am not commenting on anybody else's experience, I am making a public confession, that I will not really begin to criticize myself
Yes.
if I do not want to perfect my practice of these four values. It is what is important is not just self-criticism. What is important is my sincere intention to grow in the practice of these four values, which summarize the totality of godliness. Now, if I really want to practice this, if I really want to be godly, I have to be self-critical at every stage. Do what I say in this context, do what I do in this context, actually make me reveal or practice love as it was revealed in the divine context. Am I really compassionate? Is my religion, for example, enabling me to be compassionate? That's criticism. If it is not enabling me to be compassionate, what is wrong in my religion? So which aspect of my religion is robbing me of my right to be compassionate? What are the factors that inhibit my universal love? What is it that makes me endorse falsehood? A lot of falsehood is packaged in the name of religion.
Now, what do you think about the religion? Most of them, their whole philosophies, thinking, practices,
Yeah.
they fall in this whole category of patriarchy,
Yes.
male domination.
Yes.
And women are not given that
Yes.
equal status or dignity. Yeah?
Yes.
So this is a very big question.
Yes.
Women have to suffer this second-class
Yes.
citizenship
Yes.
for no fault of theirs. They
Yes.
are as equal
That's right.
as men.
Yes.
And still, religions will make sure that they take a place just behind men. Huh? Not equal.
Patriarchy is an oppressive arrangement or system invented by man
Yes.
in order to perpetuate status quo.
Yes.
All such systems are invented to prevent human progress. Now, I am very convinced today that man as man cannot attain fulfillment. Fulfillment is possible only
Yes.
through a very enlightened, joyful, loving partnership between men and women.
Yes.
The moment you introduce partnership,
Yeah.
equality has to come.
Sure.
You cannot have partnership and patriarchy at the same time,
Yes.
right? Patriarchy degrades relationships into slavery and domination. Patriarchy destroys the very foundation of partnership.
Yes.
So if man-woman relationship has degraded into mere sexuality,
Yeah.
instead of being a wonderful partnership for life,
Yes.
patriarchy is largely responsible for it. Because it degrades the woman into a tool, denies her individuality and absolute worth. So
Like
I think
a commodity.
commoditizes the woman.
Yes.
So I think what is important therefore is,
So we need to question all our religions and
Yes.
their practices
yes,
in the light of these patriarchal values which have been perpetuated all these ages,
yes,
and try to transcend these and then
yes,
embrace
Yes.
this universal spirituality as sort of described in the Vedas.
yes,
And therefore the Vedas talk about perfect equality between men and women.
yes,
There is no sense of any type of gender inequality.
yes,
And at best you can say they are complementary, supplementary to each other.
but the Bible says they are one flesh.
They are one flesh.
Yes.
Okay. But I'm disturbed when they say that God creates man, and then when he feels that man is alone, then he creates out of something.
No, there are two
woman,
stories.
yeah.
There are two creation stories in the Bible.
Yeah.
The first story says God created them male and female at the same time.
Ah,
But the story that is more popularly known
Yes.
is the second story, which is in the second chapter of the book of Genesis,
Uh-huh.
where God first creates Adam out of the dust of the earth,
yes.
and then puts him to sleep and performs the first surgery in history, takes his rib
Rib.
and turns the rib into a woman.
Yeah.
Now, Actually, that's
This
a
is,
poetic.
this is the handiwork of patriarchal.
No, even that
Yeah.
has been misinterpreted, actually.
Yeah.
See, all these stories, like Greek myths, contain an insight.
Yes.
The insight in the second story is that a woman is not external to a man.
Yes.
If a woman is external to a man, then he can perhaps use her as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
If a woman is internal to a man, how can he misuse her?
Yes.
So the second story was meant to actually completely rule out the possibility of patriarchy.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
But patriarchy hijacked it
Yes.
and turned it into a myth that proves the superiority of man.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
But in terms of property rights, in terms of their sharing of the income and all the labor
Yes.
a woman puts in
Mm.
day-to-day work,
Yes.
women is in fact working more than men.
Yes.
Women are working more than men.
Yes.
But they are not entitled to the fruits of their labor.
Yes.
And their independence or freedom also hinges upon
Yes.
their economic worth.
Yes.
Most of the domestic work is just not even taken as wages
Swamiji,
or
I
anything.
want to introduce a little revolution here.
Yes,
We should not use the word labor
yes,
when it comes to women. For example, I'm surprised that in thousands of years,
yes.
women have not rebelled against the expression a woman in labor. Now, people don't realize that this expression comes loaded with prejudice and contempt against women.
Yeah,
The sacred pains of a woman in giving birth to a new glorious life
yes.
is equated through this expression with the labor of an unskilled worker
Yeah.
out in the field.
Yeah,
And I'm saying that even they are so-called, there is no unskilled labor, is my fundamental
Yeah.
but even the work that is considered menial,
Yeah.
has its own dignity, its own godliness, nothing can be lowered. Or after saying all that,
Yeah.
I would still say that to equate the sacred pains of a woman
yeah.
with the labor,
Labor.
huh,
Yes.
done by man out there, I
Beautiful,
think it's
beautiful.
a terrible insult.
Yeah, it's
And
an
I think we must raise our voice against this
Yeah.
this utterly unjustifiable insult.
Yes.
Yeah. This word woman in labor has to be discarded and something more just and fair. And
But more pressing and glaring questions are there.
yes,
We don't find women anywhere.
Hmm.
All religions are being dominated by
Yes.
men. So male domination is so predominant and so very glaring that I think it has to go.
Yeah.
And that is one way that we can dismantle this wall between men, women, and also create more of equality. We should find women of glory, women who have really become enlightened.
yes,
Huh?
yes,
And therefore we should give them that place of honor also.
yes.
And I think most of our mothers
Hmm.
come in that category,
Yes.
almost all our mothers. But we don't do that in our practice.
Now, this
Anyway,
issue,
but-
Samji, this is a very serious issue.
Yeah.
I'll take just 1 minute to give some perspective to it because it's important that it is explained. The disabilities that have been traditionally inflicted on women cannot be isolated from the wrong value system in its totality that prevails in a society. For example, I'll just concretely put it. We attach a lot of heroism with the exploits of a man in the battlefield who kills 10 enemies. We don't associate any heroism with a woman who, in pain, gives birth to a new life. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
The same
Giving
society.
birth to a new life, no heroism.
Killing.
Another one killing,
Yeah.
heroism.
Now, as long as this absolutely degraded mentality, this value system, this perspective, this cultural liability remains, women have no hope.
Yes.
And if women have no hope, men also can have no hope. Society will not change. So some of these well-entrenched attitudes have to be questioned and discarded if we are to become a new humanity.
Yes.
I think that's a great birth pang of spirituality. How to
And
give birth to a new...
whenever women have shown any heroism,
Yes.
they are equated with men.
Yes, they're compared.
Like that. Yeah,
No, not equated. They're compared with women.
Yes.
See, the greatest compliment
They're
paid...
compared with
Men.
masculinity.
Yeah, masculinity.
Yeah.
For example, the great compliment paid to Mrs. Indira Gandhi was that she was the only man among the Congress people.
Yes, yes.
I mean,
Not only that, this झांसी की रानी का आपने सुना होगा.
Yes, yes.
तो उसके लिए सुभद्रा कुमारी चौहान, herself a woman poetess,
Yeah.
she says, खूब लड़ी मर्दानी वह तो झांसी वाली रानी थी.
Yes,
वो
yes.
लड़ी
Yes.
इसलिए कि वो मर्दानी थी.
Yes.
मर्दानी क्यों? जनानी थी.
No, that is because traditionally war has been associated with men.
Yes.
Now
But-
that is how land. You raised the question of property rights.
Yes.
Why did traditionally property rights belong only to men? Because when you go back in history to tribal times, you find that tribal warfare happened, and men went out and conquered the territories of other tribes, and whatever was conquered was confiscated and monopolized by men. Warfare has always been the monopoly of men. Land was the reward for military victories. Therefore, men naturally thought that land belonged to them.
Yeah.
Then land was associated with women, therefore women also belong. So those belong to them. So both became the property, the chattel of men. Now,
even women were treated like property and
that's
cattle.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Property and women both became chattels to men. Now, my point is, as long as you maintain this culture and this attitude, that is, you associate cruelty, aggression, and so-called heroism with men, the heroism of hating, killing, murdering people, and then valorizing it and saying that that is patriotism, that is a great service to humanity, we must honor such people, and we fail to take cognizance of the great and honorable work done by women in giving birth to new life.
Yes.
There is no hope for humanity.
Yes.
And unfortunately, religion goes on endorsing this wretched state, this utter depravity, and does not have the courage to question these wrong attitudes.
Now
Rather
we are
lends
going to question this.
Yes.
This Veda conference,
Yes.
15th, 16th and 17th of December
Yes.
in Delhi.
Yes.
We are going to question this male domination, this patriarchal values,
Yes.
and the Veda gives us enough sort of a space and perspective to do that. So it's really a very challenging task, and we make a beginning, a very humble beginning,
Yes.
and we make it into some sort of a movement.
Yes.
Instead of trying to have another organization, we will call this Vishwa Veda
Yeah.
Forum,
Fine.
rather than an membership organization or anything
Yes.
set up like that. So a forum or a movement, that type of a thing will happen.
I hope a person like me will be able to join your
Yes,
movement.
most
Therefore,
welcome.
please keep it open
Yes, very, very
to
open.
all religions and also to those who have no religion.
No religion, yes, exactly.
Because in my experience, Swamiji,
Yeah.
I have found
Yes,
greater godliness
yes,
in people who profess no religion
exactly.
than in people who are religious zealots.
Yes, yes.
It's a
yes,
fact.
Yes, that's a fact.
So I find
They are better human beings.
better
Yes.
human beings. So please keep your forum open
Yes.
to those who have no religion.
Great. Thank you so much.
Most welcome.